Well, we're back. Once again, I am the Red Baron. You can check me out at Baroncast. This is Hat Person, at Hat Person. Check us out, IGN Pro League, youtube.com/IPL We're, trying to release some fun stuff there. We have Xpecial on the line, so hopefully, I think we're finally good.
I think we got it.
GP10 runes. We were right in the middle of it, and then we kept cutting you off. So
we apologize deeply for that. So I'm sorry.
No problem, guys. So, like I was saying, GP10, basically, it's like this. You're looking at trade-offs. For Quince, you get 3 gold per 10, and you're pretty much giving up either 80 HP or probably even less, I'm not too sure, or like stuff like 15 AP or some of the other runes. But for seals, you're giving up 13 armor for only 2.3 gold per 10. So I don't like that trade-off. I like being more aggressive, so I also want to be a bit tankier, because we'll be trading hits bottom, stuff like that. So personally, I really like the gold per 10 Quints, but I'm not a big fan of the gold per 10 seals.
Okay, fair enough.
Awesome. Well, just kind of continuing with that real quick, what are your thoughts on running like armor or something on your reds as opposed to armor penetration, and then also for Quints, potentially running something really aggressive like attack damage in lane, if you're like someone like Sona, versus running, armor or health, or like you said, those gold per 10s?
I typically run armor on my reds, just because the trade-off, like I said earlier, trade-offs, you'd consider them, and it's something like 15 armor pen or 9 magic pen, both of which just is only useful for the early laning phase. And even on someone like someone who's going to be very aggressive, I prefer the extra armor on the reds, and then going mana regen into seals, and then also getting the gold per 10 Quints. So you're basically looking at trade-offs. I have different runes for different champions, but I'm not a big fan of the armor pen or magic pen right now.
Okay. Coming to the next question, what are your thoughts on some of the more aggressive lanes currently? Like, you see a lot of Jarvan Leona, and then with the IEM, actually, we've seen like Urgot and Kennen, those kind of lanes. What are your thoughts?
It's great. I love that people are switching things up. The Jarvan Leona thing, I think it's pretty strong if you don't know how to deal with it. So a lot of teams have seen it so many times that they're pretty much prepared for it, and they just aren't that scared of it anymore. So in order for lanes like that to be really effective, they pretty much can only be used only at tournaments, and when people aren't ready, they don't have the time to prepare for them. Whereas stuff like Kennen and Urgot, they've been pretty strong for a while. It's just that not a lot of teams like them, and we're seeing a lot of them right now. So I think they'll be pretty popular for a while, but I just don't think that those lanes are as strong as, say, Graves or Sivir. But right now, because in this recent patch, not this recent patch, but the one before it, that Graves got nerfed, Kennen is actually not too bad, and he's pretty strong.
Yeah, especially we've all seen the recent swing with AD Kennen recently, and So and also there's been a lot of talk. People nerf Sona, buff Sona, do something to Sona, anything to Sona. So what are do you think she needs a buff? You think she's fine? You think she needs a nerf?
Well, in competitive scene, Sona is pretty much the strongest support. Just because of her strong harass, plus her teamfight capabilities are pretty high, and she also has sustain. So you're pretty much getting everything that you want from a support. But the thing is, support, as good as Sona is, and even though she's better than pretty much every single support, she's not going to single-handedly carry your team. I think that something like Soraka is much more painful to deal with, just because you're having that constant sustain, and it's a very passive lane. And so passivity is also fairly boring in a bottom lane. So I like stuff like Sona. I like being aggressive with Sona. I like getting kills with Sona, because aggressiveness is much more fun to watch. It's much more fun to play versus something like Soraka.
Can't argue that. You really can't.
Yeah. Actually, talking about passive lanes, though, we have seen some people kind of running really passive lanes, which is like having a Soraka and then running a heal and a clairvoyance for a little bit more map control. What's kind of your thought in that lane as opposed to running something more aggressive like Exhaust or Ignite?
The problem with Soraka is that she can be poked down really early. Her heal at low levels is really little. Something like Sona or Alistar can pretty much crush that lane until level 5 or so. Yeah, around that level. So you want to punish passivity. You don't want to let that lane stay passive. You want to force them to be aggressive, or force them back, or zone them out. Basically, if they're playing passive, you want to be aggressive.
That sounds a lot about when I was learning to play like Texas Hold'em for the first time too. You want to be passive against aggressive and aggressive versus passive. Yeah. It's a good lesson. It's good something to go by. So so about all the new players out there, anyone playing support for the first time, what are some good champ picks for the aspiring supports out there? Brand new to the game.
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, obviously, it's much easier to play passive than it is to play aggressive. So supports like Soraka is really good. Even Sona, even though she should be played should play aggressively, she's still pretty good when played passively. So Soraka, Sona are pretty much big ones. So basically you're looking at sustain and being ranged. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So what elo would you say, or what skill level do you think people should start considering playing more aggressive as a support?
Any elo. In order to win if you want to win a lane, you have to be aggressive. By being aggressive, you can win the lane harder than if you're playing passive. So basically watching replays of really good support players, say Nat, Locust, or maybe even myself, you'll see that we play really passive when we should be. And if you're taking that into normal games, or even ranked games, you're going to be a lot better than the opposing support. And you can really shine in that role. And not a lot of players do that right now. And it's really sad to see.
You yourself, Xpecial, actually, I remember back when you were on Defy All Odds before you came over to solo mid, and you were kind of well known for your AP champs, and you're known for playing a wide variety of roles. How do you feel those other roles or lessons you learned in those other roles transition to you being, a particularly strong support champ or player?
Basically, just playing a lot is just going to really help you. Since I've played so many different roles, I was able to adapt with my supports in various different situations. So for example, knowing when to use Isonol or when to use my Giant Ult completely depends on the skills of the enemy champions. Knowing every single champion well enough and knowing their cooldowns, the ranges, that's really important if you want to be a really good support. I often see players just play the same every game because they're not understanding. They don't understand those other roles. They never played them. For me, since I played all those roles, I've played pretty much every single champion. I know what they do, and I know how to deal with them. So I would change my playstyle depending on those champions, and that's going to be something that, as Morel would say, separates the great support players from the good support players.
I love quotes. Immensely. And also, I see a lot of new players when they start out. Their interpretation of support is someone who can heal, and that's not always the case. So what are your thoughts on good support characters who don't heal or bot lane without a heal?
Well, to be simply put, healing is pretty much the most basic type of support in whatever game. MMOs, RPGs, whatever, name it. Heals are pretty much how you support. So it's not surprising that people think heal equals support. So there are strong lanes that don't consist of heals. Something like Leona, something like Janna. Both are really strong supports, and they don't really need a heal. And on top of that, Nunu, of course, he's also really strong support, and he doesn't have his heal for his AD carry. So when you don't have heal, basically you want to exchange when you know you can win it. You want to exchange when you can kill them. You don't want to exchange with pokes because they have heal, you don't have heal. Every damage you take, it's going to hurt. Every damage they take, they can heal it. So you have to consider these trade-offs.
Okay. One of the things I'm kind of curious about is a lot of, with the changes to the jungle in particular, you have a lot more aggression early in the game, but then you've actually got later dragons to some degree. You have some early dragons, some really early if you group as a team, but generally speaking, dragons are pushed back because you don't have a lot of those DPS junglers that are going for those Wriggles builds. So do you expect that that'll result in more lane transitions, like bot lane going top, or people moving around a little bit more?
Even before the jungle change, bot lane has often gone top to counter specific champions. So this isn't surprising, but with the new jungle, what happened is that because junglers will lose out a lot of EXP if they choose a gank, it is much safer to be aggressive, because you know that if you're being aggressive and a jungler comes and he doesn't get killed, the jungler is going to be hurt a lot, and you have to take that knowledge and you have to consider it. And again, you have to consider trade-offs. Is it worth being aggressive? Is it worth having a chance of dying if you can zone out the enemy champions? And in many cases, it is. So this only comes from playing a lot of support and a lot of experience. So just consider that. Is it worth dying? Is it worth dying to zone the enemy champions out? And like I said, it usually is.
Okay, awesome. So I guess we'll actually ask one more question just real quick. Do you have any other thoughts on the recent patch? We kind of talked about the items a little bit.
Yeah, I actually haven't tried out the new items yet, but like I said, it looks really good. Having new options for supports other than only going Reverie, changes things up, and I always love seeing new things in the game, and it's gonna help change the way support is played and how they build items.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to stop that interview right here, but we've got a lot more coming for you guys. Once again, this is kind of our new Learn to Play series. We do have Xpecial with us, so if you're in the chat, then just keep sending us questions, and later on we'll pull out a bunch of questions from that chat to look at. And actually, we're going to watch our new release pro tip. We're going to start releasing those on a daily schedule coming up soon. I don't know how soon in the future, but we'll play that. We'll go to a commercial, and then we'll come back and actually go over community replay with Xpecial.
Yeah, we got a nice replay here for you guys, going over some of your replays, and we can also have some more data for you guys to send us your replays to have them reviewed by a few pros. But for now, we got a pro tip, possibly some ads, and we will see you guys in a minute. Hey Summoners, I'm Hat Person, and today we're going to go over the biggest secret in League of Legends. You ready? This is it. Wards win games. That's it. Buy some wards. We're going to go over the warding basics here in today's IPL Pro Tip. Now, I want to make this clear. Warding the map is everyone's responsibility. Get rid of that mentality that only supports ward. Remember that wards can also be used offensively. You can throw them in the enemy jungle, force someone out of a bush in a lane, or use it as a beacon for a teammate to teleport to. Take a look at this map. These are the best places to ward that will provide your team with the most information. If you're near one of these spots and have a ward, just drop it and carry on. Also remember that Wriggles Lantern gives you a free ward every 3 minutes. Free! For more tips, go to youtube.com/IPL Academy. I'm Hat Person, and I'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, we're back.
We're good.
I'm the Red Baron. You can check me out at BaronCast. This is Hat Person, at Hat Person. And we actually have Xpecial on the line still. We're going to get to a point in the game which will be, hopefully we can all meet up. Oh, shoot. Okay.
We're starting up our replay.
But we've got a community replay. We're basically going to go over it. Let me transition, I guess.
All the wonderful Sona music in the background. All right. So Xpecial, you're still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So there's one question.
Okay. Well, we're at 2 minutes. If you want to go ahead and hit start.
Okay.
Good. So there's one question.
We're actually at 2:10 right now.
2:10. Okay. I think we should be synced up. So the one question I always see a lot of people ask, or a lot of people get frustrated about, you hit solo queue, or you do it normal, your last pick, and all those people who feel stuck playing support or just outright refuse to play support. Is there anything, any advice for those kinds of people?
For the people who don't want to play support, or the people who are playing with them?
No, people just don't want to play support or feel like obligated to, and just are very grumpy about it.
Well, the thing about support is that when you don't know what to do, it can be very frustrating, it can be very hard, especially since you have the extra burden of forcing the ward or having CV, stuff like that. And also, people don't think it's as fun. But basically, you just want to be able to take that role and be just as useful as someone who doesn't need farm, or as useful as someone who is taking the farm. You just have to know how to play the support and what you should be doing at pretty much every moment. And a lot of that just comes from playing support a few times, and others maybe from watching replays or just looking up guides. So don't be scared to play support. Take it as a learning experience. Is what you should be taking it as.
Okay, well, from now on, we'll ask a couple questions, but feel free to just go over what you're seeing here. I know right off the bat, I'm kind of noticing Sona, she has some wards, but she really should be dropping one of these wards into this brush, and instead she's kind of just running in and out of the brush. They're not getting any harass. You want to kind of give some thoughts on how she should be exchanging harass or her presence right now?
Yeah, at the first creep wave, your minions are going to be in the middle. You want to have a ward in their brush immediately, especially against someone like Tarek, who is melee. You want to be able to harass at level 1, and you want to start harassing at level 1, because Sona is a very strong level 1 harassing champion. And what I see right now is that she's putting 2 wards on in the river area. Sure, this is great, but you don't need both wards there. You just want one in the middle of those 2. You want one in that choke point. So right now she's just wasting wards. It isn't bad, but it could be done better.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, for harass is actually when you harass out of these brush, the brush is probably the biggest thing for bot lane. And when you attack out of the brush, you become visible for a couple of seconds. So if you just take a step outside of the brush, then throw an attack, and then run back into the brush, your harass will be much more effective, and then you'll be a little bit more protected.
Right, but also another thing is that abilities don't trigger this effect. But certain abilities, like say Ezreal's Q, if it lands on an enemy champion, then it will reveal you. But Sona's Q, it will not reveal you unless you use your auto attack afterwards. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
So there's also for Soraka's or Tarek, if you're healing from the brush.
Exactly, stuff like that. And one other thing is that the Sona is playing very aggressive, but she's also taking a lot of harass that is unneeded. You want to be able to dart in and out, but also be able to just harass while minimizing damage you're taking while maximizing the damage you're dealing. That's what you want to do.
All right. So how are you feeling about these 2 bot lane combos we have here? So we got Corki and Sona, then we got Tarek and Ezreal. Are these good combos?
Ezreal Tarek is a strange lane. Ezreal has poke, but his poke is very weak. It costs very little mana relatively, but it's not a strong poke. Corki, on the other hand, would fit much better with Tarek because when Tarek lands a stun, he can both E his Gatling gun and use Q his Phosphorus bomb, which is combined does a pretty decent amount of damage. Ezreal, on the other hand, just has a Q and a W, which costs an insane amount of mana and doesn't do that much damage. So I'm really not liking the Tarek Ezreal, whereas the Sona Corki is a very strong lane.
That's actually right there. We saw actually a good example where she probably could have gotten a couple more attacks. She threw off her Q just to harass Tarek, but without throwing the attacks, you're actually missing out on a lot of damage, and that's really important. And then particularly getting a brush into this lane so that she can keep control over Tarek, because now Tarek kind of has control of that brush again.
Right. And one other thing I forgot to mention is that if you hover your mouse over the Q right now, you see a range. That range is only the range for which the Q only targets the enemy champion. So Sona's Q has two ranges. It's a weird spell. One is pretty large, and it pretty much hits any target that is in that range. Whereas the smaller one, which is the one you would see if you hover over it, that's the one that will only hit champions. It will prioritize champions over minions. So you want to be able to know that range offhand and be able to harass them, even if they're between minions.
So, so for Sona specifically, what would be the skill order you want to go with her bot lane?
What I usually do is I get Q at level 1, I get W at level 2, and then afterwards, it depends on how my lane's going. If I'm taking a lot of harass, I might level W at level 3, or if I'm not, then I'm going to level Q at level 3. Afterwards, it's going to be leveling E as soon as possible, and then maxing Q for extra damage, or maybe even getting a few levels of W mixed in if I'm taking a lot of harass.
So now what about other champions like say Soraka or Taric or Alistar? You see a lot of people will opt to just try and max out that heal first. Like, are there certain situations where you may not want to?
For Soraka, I pretty much will always max out the heal, but for Alistar, I often max out the damage skill, like the pulverize, because AoE, lower cooldown, and just when you max it out, it does a lot of damage. Whereas like heal, the cooldown never goes down. The mana to mana to healed cost is the same, and all you're getting is just a stronger heal when it's up. And so unless you're taking a lot of harass, I pretty much don't max E first on Alistar.
So we saw Sona go back into the bush to reward the tri-bush, and there's a point where she was just kind of like stuck in the river, like she was being kind of cornered in by Taric. So could we go over warding in the river and how to maybe perhaps avoid situations like that?
Basically, if you're pushed up and you go to ward, you're pretty much 100% safe. There's no way they're gonna go all the way around just to do some damage to you when creeps are at the tower. So another thing to be wary of is that a lot of people don't take CV nowadays, and it can be very dangerous when you're doing stuff like that. A jungler can come down, but if you're pushed up, it makes it much harder for that to happen. You get a lot of warning signs. For example, if they start coming up to you, even though the wave is pushed, that's a pretty good warning sign for you that their jungler is around. So being aware of your surroundings is key to not dying when you're warding.
So why is it that a lot of people are not opting for CV anymore?
It's actually pretty funny. It's because players like myself didn't pick up CV for the longest time because of the changes. But right now, I'm picking up CV every single game because of how aggressive I like to play and how I like to be able to see where the jungler is more often. So I think in a few months it'll go back to normal, where CV is pretty much taking on every champion or every support champion. But even then, it's not exactly necessary, but very useful.
You said you like CV for the aggression it gives you?
Yes. When you CV an enemy jungler,
yeah,
it basically means you know where that person is, and you can be as aggressive as you want because you know that bottom's a 2v2 lane. I agree that having heal means you can be more aggressive, but you're also more prone to ganks. Knowing where they are, having vision is more important when you want to just have a 2v2 lane.
Awesome. So, just what are your thoughts on bot lane for like how people can, when you have a gank coming? There was a Rammus gank not that long ago that kind of failed, or it was actually a while ago. But when you have a gank coming, steps that you can take to, I don't know, bait the lane in or get your ganker in the best situation possible.
It always depends on the champion you're playing on. When you're ganking, right? Is that what you meant?
No, when you're bot lane, like is there something that you can do to particularly to help your jungler?
Well, of course you can bait them. Right. Basically, you against a Taric Ezreal lane, that Taric's gonna be looking for stuns if he can land it safely. So you want to be a bit more aggressive than usual. You want to bait the stun and then have them go in on you. That way, your jungler has more time, and the enemy bottom has less time to react.
Okay. Yeah, I guess also another thing to note, this Soraka or this Sona, it's almost, it's 11 something into the game. Neither her nor Corki have backed yet, so since they keep on pushing up, it probably would have been a good decision for them to have, recalled already, get some items to continue with the lane advantage, and then also grab some pink wards, since they, saw earlier where Tarek had dropped his ward, or when Tarek goes back and he drops wards in the future, you can drop a ward. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a ward on Dragon, though that's good. It could just be a ganking lane ward so that your Rammus, can get in the lane as well.
Right. When you get a pink ward and you kill an enemy ward, that's like the best thing that can happen. You want to be able to kill a ward and have your own vision there. That's going to completely deny them of any future green wards for those 3 minutes. So you want to pick up pink wards as long as the opponent is picking up green wards. And that's pretty much every game. People pick up green wards every game. So you want to have a pink ward if the enemy team is warding, and that's going to happen. So pick up pink wards. They're really good.
So other than that, then when is usually a good time to recall back to base and shop, apart from dying, of course?
Well, I mean, right there, they actually saw the cannon coming down. They should have backed immediately. Sona, the problem here was that Sona flashed and pretty much helped Amumu land his ult on the Corki. That was a big problem right there. And you want to be careful of your flashes. You never want to miss your flash in a way that pretty much screws your team over. That's pretty much what Sona did. I mean, it isn't her fault that she didn't think that Mumu would miss his band shots like that. But you have to be very careful with your flashes. You don't want to waste your escape simmer, and in turn also help the enemy team in assisting in killing you. So be very careful when you're using your summoners.
One thing I'll also say about recalling, generally if you're pushed up to the enemy lane, if you push it into the creep wave into the tower, then if you're not in lane, the creeps will push all the way back to your side of the tower. So that's actually a good opportunity to recall. And when that gank, when they died, a lot of the issue was they had decent vision, but because they hadn't gotten boots yet, Amumu just walked right down the lane and chased them down.
Right, that's true. They had numerous opportunities to go back. Basically, when Corki was low on mana and Sona was low on mana, they should have gone back. Or when they were pushing up, they also had a chance to go back. So it was just them being a bit too greedy. They wanted to stay in lane a bit longer, and that kind of costed them pretty badly since they both died for it, and the enemy team got Dragon. So yeah.
This is actually funny. It's actually working out for them well because Corki was able to pick up a kill by himself and then another on Tarek. But Sona doing a good job walking up to ward, the entrance to both sides of the river. That's definitely good. But then she was kind of trying to roam for a while and left Corki down against an aggressive lane. And he probably should have died. He almost did. So definitely, I mean, it's good. It's a good idea to roam if you're like pushed up against your tower where your laner will be safe. But if you know that your laner is going to be in a poor situation like that, you probably need to head back into lane and not allow them to get ganged up on.
Right. So the best time to back is, I mean, in a bottom lane, you pretty much want to back together. You want to both back at the same time so that nobody's at a significant disadvantage. You don't want to leave the AD alone bottom and have him get completely zoned out. And if that happens, and you're just leaving your AD like that, he is going to get zoned out, he's going to lose experience, he's going to lose gold that he would have gotten if you were there. So, most of the time you want to back together, but sometimes if the lane is completely pushed up, you have some free room to just go back whenever.
Cool. So I mean, we have so Sona did die again, so she is back at base. So what are let's go over some of the standard build orders for most supports. Usually, we have our GP10s first off.
Yeah. Before this patch, every support pretty much ran a Fairy Charm with 3 wards and 2 HP pods, and they would build out in Philostone. Afterwards, get a boot somewhere in there, and then get a heart of gold. That's pretty standard, and it's gonna work for a pretty long time unless something big happens. So, yeah, Gold for 10. Gives you extra gold. More wards. Good stuff.
How about I mean, sometimes when I play support, I'll often throw like a Kage's Lucky Pick in there, just for a little bit extra. Do you feel that's a good idea?
I really don't like getting 3 of them, mainly because if you do the math on it, I'm gonna nerd out a bit here. If you do the math on it, basically you're not gonna have the benefits that early, and plus you're gonna lose out a earlier Reverie or early Aegis, whatever you're trying to build. So it's pretty much the laser build, unless the game is going to like 50 or 60 minutes, and I don't feel that's worth it.
Okay. So we have Reverie, we have Aegis. What are some other mid late game items that we usually see supports go?
Well, after this patch, I'm pretty certain that locket of not sure the name was like Iron Solaris, I believe.
Like Iron Solaris.
I think we'll see some of that. And sometimes I like getting a Chalice of Harmony on Sona specifically because of how mana hungry she gets in the mid game and the late game.
Yeah, Iron Solaris actually I think we'll probably start seeing on a lot of junglers as well. They missed someone is ganking them in this lane, I believe. There was kind of a little blip on the map. He hasn't shown up yet. I guess maybe not. Oh, there's a Mumu.
There he is.
So unfortunately, I think that's going to be another death. We'll have to see. She's going to have her ult and her flash, so maybe Corki will be able to turn it around. But for heal-less supports, there's a lot of supports like Janna, for instance, who are very strong, particularly as the game progresses. But they are kind of a little bit weaker in lane because they don't have that heal. If you're playing one of those supports, how will you play them differently from other supports?
As Janna, you can be very aggressive even though you don't have a heal because your shield is really, really strong. The amount, it basically is a heal in a way that as long as I take down the shield, but don't take your HP, you gain that HP. So I often like to get HP regen Quints on Janna specifically because you want to be able to harass with Janna, even though most people don't do that because you don't have the heal. So it's basically using your runes and masteries and changing them in a way that fits that support champion is what I would suggest.
Okay. We were talking about early items for a champion like that where they don't have a heal, maybe looking to be a little bit more aggressive. Say you're going up against a really aggressive lane like Urgot and Taric that's got lots of armor stuff. Will you ever opt for a cloth armor on a support, like cloth armor, ward, and some health pots?
I definitely consider it, but oftentimes I wouldn't because I would change my runes and masteries just for that early laning. So even if I were playing Sona, in that scenario, I would just go pretty much full out armor because they're gonna be doing a ton of armor damage. But you also consider trade-offs because if you're taking glyphs into armor, you're not gonna be as tanky mid to late game against magic and stuff like that. So again, it's always trade-offs when it comes to runes and masteries.
So, and speaking of masteries, what do you usually run?
Runes and masteries. Okay. Actually, I have several guides on Soul Mid just about. It has a bunch of stuff about runes and masteries. But a quick rundown is I run 0, 23, 7 for my masteries. I'm pretty much getting everything that's defensive in defensive mastery, plus getting a bunch of mana and mana regen. For runes, I pretty much run stuff like armor in reds, mana regen or armor in seals, magic resistance per level, and with a mixture of magic resistance flats for glyphs, and then Quints are pretty much go for 10s or HP regen.
So, and are there any matchups which you would greatly deviate from something usual like that?
Yeah, if bottom lane just happens to be a kill lane, like for example they run Jarvan Leona, I'm gonna go HP Quints. I don't want to die. My goal in that lane is to not die, and getting that extra 70 or 80 HP at level 1, that's a lot of HP, and if it's gonna help me survive, why not? Why not get something that's gonna help me survive versus a go for 10, whereas if we already reach mid game, we pretty much already won the lane.
Yeah. So what and really, like, what is the value you get out of just, you know, flat out staying alive as long as you can in bot lane as a support?
Well, people often think that dying at support is okay, but if you think about it, you're still giving the enemy team 260 gold or whatever, and more gold if they get an assist. So you pretty much never want to die, ever. That should be your goal. But at the same time, it's okay to die in a team fight as long as you get all your skills off, and if they try to focus you and you die, it's okay to die. It's not okay to die in lane.
And I'll also see sometimes, you know, I'll hop in a normal game, and you'll have like an AD carry get really all, you know, up in a fit, you know, if the support just happens to take like 1 or 2 creeps. So I mean, yeah. So like ideally, like, do you just want to not take any creeps at all, or if you just happen to be alone in lane? So like, what do you feel is your policy as a support farming lane?
When I lane with Chaos, the AD player on Team Soul Mid, pretty much, if I feel that he will miss the CS, I will take it. I don't want any creeps to go to waste. So, for example, if he's being zoned out and he's unable to reach a creep, I will just take it. Why not? Why let that gold go to waste? So, basically, as long as he's getting it, I won't touch it. But if he's not taking it, then I'm just gonna take all of it. It's basically pretty much it.
Okay. When I know a lot of times there's kind of this ambiguous thing, you have to just kind of decide for yourself. If you're winning the lane and you're being really aggressive pushing up, we saw a lot of opportunities where they could have actually potentially pushed down that lane bottom, but they kind of waited a particularly long time. At what point do you decide it's worth it to take the tower versus leaving it up to keep the wave maintained around the river?
There's a lot of factors in that. If, for example, you're running an Alistar Tristana, you're killing them bottom, you are 3-0 bottom, you don't want to take a tower. Why? Because Tristana not only pushes the lane when there's no tower, because of her E, she automatically pushes the lane. So you don't want to take that tower. You want them to be in lane for as long as possible, to have more opportunities to deny them, to kill them. And basically, if you're being very aggressive, you don't want to take that tower unless you want to group up. When you group up, that's when you want to take that bottom tower.
Okay. Back to farming, we were all talking earlier about supports. We've seen a couple of times where the waves would die like to the towers, and really on any champion, that's always kind of a good decision to try and go and stop that wave and take that CS if you're just kind of can get near the area. But here we actually see the enemy team is trying to do Baron, and this team, they were actually kind of out of position, so they will lose the Baron, but the enemy definitely getting pretty low. You want to throw out some advice for kind of maintaining health as you're doing Baron, or like as a team?
In that scenario, the enemy team was fairly far behind. It was pretty much a big risk for them to take Baron, but they would have came out ahead if they were able to kill that Baron a bit faster. The big problem here was that their AD is very far behind. I'm not sure of his items. Let me check his items real quick. But yeah, the Ezreal doesn't have strong AD damage because he's not building correctly, and he's also 0-5 right now. And that's a big problem. If you want to do something aggressive like take Baron or try to sneak Baron, you want to be able to kill it fast enough. So that was a big problem on their part, and they really don't have that damage to take that Baron fast.
Okay, here we do see they did take the mid tower. Now, they don't have the Baron, but they are in a pretty strong position, so they are going to transition to this bot tower since they have a lot of creeps here. That's definitely probably a good decision, you know, to start off saying. But they're not in the best position here, so they're actually losing some deaths. Do you think they probably should have recalled since they were kind of low mana and low health after taking that first tower, or do you think it was right to push down that tower?
In a normal game, when you're ahead like this, it's really hard to lose. Basically what happened is that the Veigar felt like, oh, I am Veigar, I am fed, and I'm just gonna go for kills. And that's pretty much what he did. So you're not gonna see this as much in tournament play because people play a lot more conservatively. They don't wanna take risks that will get them killed. So in that case, you don't want to do that. You want to play a bit more conservatively, even if it's a normal game or if it's a ranked game, because you can still lose a game, even if you're this far ahead. So they should not push down that tower. They should just taken mid tower and then gone back. If dragon was up, take that too. If buffs were up, take that. But they shouldn't have gone for that extra tower.
So let's talk a little bit about the whole like the team fighting phase. So like as a support, you know, what should your positioning be? What should your role be in team fights?
The role of any champion is be close enough to be effective but far enough to be killed. If AP, support, anything. So you really have to know every single champion and know the ranges of them. So and knowing how close you can be and still be alive, that's a number that it's hard to say unless you're looking at a specific game. So in this case, it's very hard for them to engage on the Sona. She can be very close and she still likely won't die. But I mean, other than the cannon and a moonwall, so other than that, she can be very aggressive. And she's doing a really good job of landing her ultimates and just staying in the fight, and that's good.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing to note with Sona. That's one of her strengths is just her versatility, and then also her ability to kite with her E in particular. And then also, if you get a Shirelius, then it's very easy to kind of stay in the back. And for a soft champion like Sona, like you were saying with the positioning, you want to be in position to help out your team, get kills, and also throw off that ultimate. But you also kind of want to stay in a defensive position.
Right.
For other tankier champions like Alistar or Taric, a lot of times, you know, will you try and initiate a fight by just trying to get the enemy to just blow their abilities on you and waste it since you're kind of tanky champion, or will you kind of just wait for a appropriate moment for your team to engage?
Again, it really depends on the enemy champions. For example, if you see an Annie and you initiate on a team with Annie, the Annie's not gonna blow all her skills on you, because why would she waste that? Because when her cooldowns are just so long, and you're not gonna die because you're, say, Alistar. But on the other hand, if it's, say, Ryze and you initiate on a team with Ryze, he's gonna kill you because Ryze's cooldown isn't based on a long cooldown ultimate. His damage comes from spamming his Q, W, and E, and he's gonna keep doing that no matter who he goes for. So if you initiate on a team of Ryze, he's gonna focus you, you're gonna die, and your team is still going to be, it's still gonna have that Ryze there. But if you initiate on a team of Annie, Annie's not gonna go for you, and you can just harass anyone else that is on Annie's team, and you're still gonna be alive. So you really consider the enemy champions and consider how fed they are and stuff like that. And it's not even about your champion, it's just about their champion.
Okay.
All right, so we have some questions from chat
actually,
here.
why don't we just start? Do you have any closing thoughts for that last game? Like any thoughts for Sona in particular that you noticed that we didn't go over?
Nothing much, other than that he played really well, or she played really well. But as always, you can do a bit better in being aggressive and avoid a few devs. But her team fight, how she did was pretty well done. Plus, her warding was decent, but it could be improved on. You really want to maximize efficiency. You can do good, but always have the opportunity to do better.
Okay. Another thing I actually, sorry, one last thing. I keep cutting you off here. Another thing I actually noticed was no one on their team got oracles. Do you still see it as kind of a support function for oracles, or do you consider it more of the jungler, or is it just kind of depend on how the game flows usually?
It's always going to depend. I pretty much pick on oracles if I get early kills. If I somehow accidentally take first blood, I'm going to get a pretty early oracles, because that 400 gold that I wouldn't normally have gotten, I got. And I'm going to use that to push my advantage. I'm going to put that 400 gold not on myself, but put that on my team and help them out by taking out wards. And by taking out wards, they can be a bit more aggressive, because the enemy champions are going to be a bit more passive. So I like to transfer my gold for my team. I like to take my first blood, I'm going to invest it into an oracles to help on my team. So it depends. The jungler, if you have a really tanky jungler, or a jungler that likes to roam a lot, for example, Rammus, or possibly Lee Sin, stuff like that, he might take the oracles early, and in that case, you're not going to get one. but other times you can be the one that takes some oracles. It really, really depends.
Okay, cool. So we have a whole bunch of questions here from chat. So what's the first one here? What should I do mid-game? Because sometimes my team splits up. So who should I follow, or should I just start warding?
In mid-game, there's a lot of different scenarios. For example, you could have lost bot tower already, or you can take in bot tower already. And in that specific case, it might be better to just run with your team. Your AD is likely still bottom, and he's going to be still farming, and likely their support is roaming also. So it's going to be a 1v1 bottom. He's going to just farm, and you're going to be with your team, and you can make plays with your team. So mid game is not very specific at all. Mid game can mean anything. So in that case, I'm going to say work with your team. Figure out what your team is trying to do. If they're taking buffs, be there. If your AD is getting crushed in a 2v1, be there to help him instead. It depends. You want to basically maximize your efficiency, maximize your time. You don't want to just sit there and do nothing.
Good.
Another thing I will add to that, though, a lot of times as the game progresses, when you're looking to ward, just recognize where the enemy team likely has wards as well. And, because you don't want to be walking into brushes and stuff like that, obviously, if they have vision of you. So when you're looking to ward or counter ward, or if you have oracles trying to clear up some of those wards, try and do it, as a team, generally speaking, unless you see people on the map and know that you're going to be going into an open area where you're going to be fine.
Right. It's all about being aware of where the enemy positions are, and it's really, really dependent on the enemy champions. For example, if there's an Ashe on the enemy team, warding just becomes 10 times more dangerous because a stray arrow and it hits you, you're likely going to die, even though they might be really far away. So you have to be really careful, and you have to look at the enemy champions and too much get a feel for how easily can they kill you and how quickly can they do it. And just ask yourself that, and then consider that when you're warding.
Cool. We got a Sona-specific question here. So when are the appropriate times to use power chords, and what power chords should you be using and when?
In lane, you're gonna pretty much use your Q power chord. You pretty much want to go up close enough to them that your Q lands, and then afterwards chain that out with an all attack, and then that's gonna do a pretty significant amount of damage. Level 1, it's gonna do around 200, maybe even a bit more, and for an AD, that's a lot of damage. 200 damage is a lot. It's gonna be around might be half if he doesn't have Doran's Blade. So you want to use Q power chord to harass. In a team fight, it really doesn't matter. Sure, the power chord from W is great if you want to stop an enemy from doing just a little bit less damage or not do as much damage. But other than that, the W power chord isn't really that useful. And then, obviously, the slow power chord on E is whenever you're chasing.
Okay. The next question.
What is up?
We've actually seen that question.
So I think that about covers it.
Yeah, we should be good. Thank you, Xpecial, for coming on here and joining us. Do you want to say anything else, or have any shout-outs or anything like that?
Oh, I have a few shout-outs. First shout-out is going to be to my team, Team Solo Mid, and to solomid.net. We have ton of guides. I pretty much a lot of things I talked about. I have a lot of guides just about support champions and even the support role in general. And if you guys are curious, or if you guys are just want to play support and play it better, just check out my guides on solomid.net. And then I also have a Twitter. It's at TSMXpecial. And then also Facebook, which is just Xpecial. It's kind of new; it doesn't have that many fans yet, so you guys can say you're one of the first.
Oh, I'm definitely doing that. I am absolutely, and everyone in chat, I think you guys should be doing that too.
He here. He wants to get a cardboard cutout and just take pictures of himself with Team Solo Mid all over the place. Right? I'm just kidding. That's awesome. Actually, one thing we will say. For those of you who are kind of trying to look to improve your game, if you go to Riot's YouTube channel, most of you hopefully probably know this already, but if you subscribe to their YouTube channel, you can actually receive a free Alistar skin, which also unlocks the Alistar champion for you.
For anyone out there looking to start playing support, good start.
You could check out Xpecial's guide. Do you have a guide on Alistar?
I actually do. I believe I just updated that last week, so it's pretty up to date.
Perfect.
And yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually a really good champion to work on brush control. So using the wards in the brush, and then also if you, as Alistar, kind of just try and hold the brush, and then if the enemy team walks into the brush, you can, pick up some kills there, do a lot of aggression. So
cool.
Definitely try that out. Once again, I'm the Red Baron. You can check me out at BaronCast. This is Hatperson, at Hatperson. This is our Learn to Play thing. Please, leave us any comments for how, what kind of stuff you would like to see in the future. We'll have a show tomorrow. Dan Din actually came by the office to cast some games with us, and that was really exciting. It's tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Yep.
And for all of you watching on stream right now, we do have we got a little bit of homework for you guys. We got a little homework assignment. So we mentioned before, you can get Alistar for free from Riot when they're from their YouTube promotion, but the Zillion is also free this week.
Okay.
So here's what I want all of you guys watching to do here. So I want you to play Alistar or Zillion in support. Once replays are up and running again, take a replay, send it to us, iplreplays@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at them. And we'll review them, we'll see, and it might be on next week's show.
Yeah. Also, if you have any cool highlights or anything, any replays that you thought were really exciting or had, just some awesome play in them, then send them again to iplreplays@gmail.com, and we might use them. And then I think we have some prizes or giveaways.
I think we got some Riot Nass's codes still sitting around.
We'll figure it out. But, that should be fun. So. Definitely check back tomorrow. Killing Spree should be a lot of fun, and let us know what you thought, and then tune in next week. So I hope you enjoyed it. YouTube.com/IPLLOL, and everyone, thank you for joining us.
Xpecial, thank you very much for coming on, being our letting us being our first guest here, and letting us pick your brain for a little while.
No problem, and thank you guys for inviting me. And one last thing, I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Uni, because she keeps bothering me about it. And yeah, quick shout out to her.
All right,
Done.
Sounds good. Shout out to Uni. All right.